Hello, everyone. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021. I am Salad Blue Sister, and this is my turn to talk. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. Hello. Okay, I am so sorry I had to restart the show. I did not realize that I had the show in unlisted mode. So, you guys, I was testing my microphone earlier and I put it in unlisted mode. So, I apologize. Hello, 100 Yardo Chemist. How are you? All right. So, today I want to talk about the hypocrisy of freedom in America and who gets to choose. And basically, what I mean by that is, this past weekend, we had a lot of things going on, mainly the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and it you know it struck me that 20 years ago, America was, we're going to help each other, we're going to love each other, yeah, I got your back, don't worry about it. But 20 years later, this is where we are, and in my opinion, we're in the same place that we were before 9/11. Um, it's just that 9/11 just brought out, you know, um, well, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say something that was totally wrong, and I'm not going to say that. I will say that the last 20 years has brought out the last 5 years just how people really feel about each other. A lot of people have been outed that weren't outed before. I'll put it like that. When you talk about the hypocrisy of America, and the hypocrisy of freedom, and we have people who choose and want to say that, you're not wearing a mask. I don't want to wear a mask. How dare you, do a mask mandate? I want to carry a gun. I want the right to bear arms. But yet these same people support bills that limit the right to vote for some people. And we're seeing it more and more. So who gets to choose? You can have this freedom, but you can't. And uh, you know, um, that's what we're living with. This is what we're living with now. You know, I read somewhere, and I wrote this down, where they said keeping the age for military recruitment lower than the legal age for drinking alcohol. So you're old enough to kill on your nation's behalf, but not old enough for a can of beer. So on one hand, you have the hypocrisy of, you know, um, I can't drink until I'm 21, but here's a gun. Here is a gun. You can go kill people at the age of 18, but I can't drink when I'm, you know, until I'm 21. And that, in my opinion, is hypocrisy. And you're, you know, limiting one's freedom. You know, let's talk about Thanksgiving. you know, Native Americans, as far as I'm concerned, they should say this is really should be at the top of the list, because Thanksgiving is a joke. It is, and it's hypocritical in America. Um, You know, when hypocrisy starts to limit a person's freedom or, what they can do, it's a problem. And why is one okay for one person, but it's not okay for someone else? I don't know. Welcome OJ 28 and Crucible Man. America has the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons, but we behave in a hypocritical manner that, no one else can have them. You know, the show from last week, towards the end of it, we were talking about gun control, the way the conversation turned. And once again, you have a group of people who demand that they're able to, buy guns, but at the same time, they want to make sure that another group of people, they don't have them. So who gets to choose, your freedom? You know, um, at the beginning of the year, we heard a lot about voting rights. And, you know, for some people, they thought, oh, that's not going to happen. But it did. Look at where we are in voting rights. We're right back to 1965. When you're going to tell someone that you don't have the freedom to vote because what? Because we're afraid of your vote? If you give someone water in line, you're going to be arrested. Those are voting laws that are on the books. There are a lot of things that are on the books that are coming up, in this country that's going to limit someone's freedom. And I just look at America and I think that we are one of the biggest hypocritical nations, my opinion. So I am going to open it up. Does anyone want to say anything before I keep going? And before this conversation turns into something else like it always does on this show. So, anybody? See, I'm looking at the comments. Everyone's just saying hello to each other. So, all right. So, one other thing that I want to point out, that is a freedom that, in my opinion, that is being taken away, is language. And I'm talking about, we have so many different ethnicities in this country, so many, that people have their own language. And I am guilty of this. I will admit I am guilty of this. But over the years, I've learned not to do this one particular thing. And that is telling someone to speak English. You're in America, speak English. Okay. But we as Americans will go over to another country and say, don't you speak English? Don't you speak English? Well, if we're in their country, shouldn't we speak French, Spanish? Shouldn't we? But Americans, we're the first ones to say, does anybody here speak English? So that's what I'm talking about, freedom, and that's what I mean by the hypocrisy. You look at 9/11, and 9/11 changed a lot of things. Most Americans don't speak English properly. You're absolutely right, chemist. You are absolutely correct. They don't. But we should not, with a country that has so many different ethnicities, should we demand that people in this country speak English? It's just a question. I'm just putting it out there. We say, welcome to America. Now speak English. I mean, that's just, again, my opinion. So, again, I open it up. Does anyone want to add to the conversation, or you think I'm wrong, or, um, you know, we had this was years ago. I think it was probably about 4 years ago that there was an Indian man who was killed in a bar in Kansas City. No problem. OJ, no problem. Who was killed in a bar in Kansas City um, by a gunman who, shouted, speak English and get out of my country before he opened fire. I mean, this is what we've come to as a nation. And you look at people who came through Ellis Island, those people didn't speak English, but they were welcome. So, I mean, you look at every day. It just seems like there seems to be uh, something each day that is going on. And Crucible Man says you need to hold my tongue. I think on this show, everyone is allowed to voice their opinion as long as we keep it civil. I have no problem. Okay, and let's see. Shy Lady says there's cities in Florida that are heavily Spanish speaking, and I've been told by non-Spanish speaking Americans who were told they can't have a job if they don't speak Spanish. Well, and we see hypocrisy, can swing the other way too. So are you saying? So, Shy Lady, are you saying that in those particular companies owned by Spanish speaking people are saying that speaking Spanish as a second language, or they want you to only speak Spanish? I just want you to clarify that. Because out here in California, it is the same way that there are some places here that part of the criteria is that you speak both both English and Spanish. And Kimmin says, Crucible Man, please speak your mind. This is the space for that. I'm not able to get in to speak. Okay, hold on, Shiley. Let me send you an invite. And I see Terry wants to speak. Oops, sorry about that. And Shy Lady, I'll send you an invite to speak. Okay, so Shy Lady, you should have received an invite.
Hey
And
everyone.
Crucible Man, you should have received an invite. I'm sorry, Shy Lady, go ahead, because I don't see Crucible Man on.
No, I was just going to say I know some people who are Floridians, and they've informed me that there are cities, particularly in the Miami area, where you cannot get a job, like at some of the stores there, if you don't speak Spanish. So this is America, and they have locked people out that are Americans, people that are native to Florida, and they've told them, "Oh, you can't work here because you don't speak Spanish."
So, okay,
There,
so when you say that, are you saying Spanish as a second language, like they want you to speak both English and Spanish, or just Spanish?
from what I understand, just Spanish, because that those particular people only speak English. And I've been told by people who were born and raised in Florida um, that they're discriminated. I know people that are black said that they're discriminated against in
In
Florida
Florida.
by white Cubans.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's wrong, or what?
Oh, definitely, most definitely. Now I understand that there may be certain areas, like where I live in Texas. There's certain neighborhoods where you see a lot of Spanish languages on the marquees, advertising in Spanish, tire stores or grocery stores, what have you. But for what I understand, there are areas in the Miami area that people who've been there, for long periods of time in Miami can't get jobs there because they won't hire them. They say, "Well, you don't speak Spanish," and I don't know. It could be the mall or something, but they won't hire them.
Okay, and this is where I say, here in California, there are some places that are the same, that they want you to be able to speak Spanish if you work there, and if you don't, you don't get hired. Now, the reason why I don't necessarily have a problem with that is because if you do have a clientele that is, Spanish speaking, and all they speak is Spanish, you have to be able to relate to them. So on that level, I say yes. Same thing. Uh, uh, California has a very large, especially Southern California, Korean community. And there are some places that you go to where they want you, to speak that language, because that's what their clientele speak. So you can't speak English to someone who doesn't understand the language. So, Crucible Man, if you want to jump in, what do you want to say?
Yes, Solid. I have some thoughts on the language thing. I think more so than from a racial or from a bigotry perspective. I agree with you on the comment about. I look at it from more of a practical standpoint. Would you want to work in an environment, whether it's in an all English environment if you're Spanish or Hispanic, or would you want to work in an all Hispanic environment if you're English, if that is going to hinder your ability to do your job? Kind of to your point, if you're working with an all American clientele and you don't speak any English, or you're working with an all Hispanic clientele and you don't speak any Spanish, from a practical standpoint, you're not going to be able to do your job. Now, can we tell what's in the hearts of these people who are imposing these rules? Of course we can't. It could simply be bigotry masquerading as practicality. In other words, the hiring people really are bigots, but they don't want to be called bigots. So they hide behind the practicality nature of it. It's impossible to tell what's in somebody's heart. But to your other point about, why don't we speak French or other languages that are spoken around the world? Well, not to be on my high horse or anything, but we are one of the largest countries in the world. We're certainly the largest English-speaking country. And I think from that standpoint, there's more of a practical consideration for people needing to speak or learning English. I'm certainly not making it a requirement, but that there would be a more practical consideration for them to want to know English as opposed to Americans needing to know French or Portuguese, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense, but I am going to disagree with you, because if you go over to another country, okay, just because America, may be one of the largest in the world, whatever, that has nothing to do, in my opinion, with number one, respecting that country's language. And almost, I mean, I've known people who have traveled, and they've come back telling me where they've gotten into arguments with people in other countries because they were like, no, trying to tell them that they don't have anyone around that speaks English, whatever. And basically, you're in my country, speak my language. And I don't think there's anything wrong with expecting someone to. I mean, it is respect. If I go to um, to Paris, and I'm looking at the menu, and if they don't have an English menu and it's in um, um, French, then I'm going to have to somehow order my food, try, whatever, try to order my food, in French. It's just respect, and I think that Americans are very arrogant when we go to other countries where we're almost demanding that speak English, speak English. Well,
So is the situation reciprocated here in America? So if you're saying if I go to France, they should reasonably expect me to speak French because I'm in their country. What's not arrogant about that? It's only arrogant Americans who insist on them speaking English when they're in our country.
okay, you made a very good point, but I also said that America has so many different ethnic backgrounds. Yes, I do believe that in America you should learn to speak English, but I also think because we have so many different cultures here. I mean, so many. We have people who speak in this country who speak over 200 different languages, whatever. So, what do we do? I mean, so are we going to just, when someone's in the store and they're checking out and the person uh, who is behind the counter is speaking Spanish? I mean, I hear it all the time here. The person behind the counter is speaking Spanish. The customer is is Latino and they're speaking Spanish. I don't care. I don't care because that person, that's how they can relate to check out whatever. But then you have those people who are also standing in line who just put their 2 cents in and say, "Speak English, speak English." I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I, I think the
I
motivation
just
for some people is hatred, and it is bigotry. It's not based on any practical consideration. There's no real practical reason why somebody should need to or have to be able to speak English. I agree it makes that person's life easier while they're here, but I believe there is a lot of hatred behind a lot of this speak English stuff. It's not they're concerned about making excuse me, making life easier for this particular person who's not from this country. I believe it's a indication of bigotry in their heart in many cases.
okay. All right. Hello, Juju. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. You know, um, Picking up on that, and Crucible, I'm just going to mute your mic. Um, Picking up on that, um, is that considered limiting someone's freedom? I mean, the freedom to not be able to go into a store is limited because someone may want me to speak English, or the freedom of being able to get a job because I don't speak Spanish or Chinese, whatever. I mean, I think pretty much every place around the nation has a Chinatown, and you go to Chinatown, and basically, if you're not speaking um, Chinese, you're going to have a problem when you go there and shop. So I don't know. I don't know. And again, I have been guilty of saying speak English, but over the years, I've kind of stopped doing that because I recognize, again, here in America, there's just so many different languages, just so many, as opposed to when you go to other countries, um, you're pretty much speaking that particular country's language or possibly English, but their language is the number one. I think America. I mean, and someone tell me if I'm wrong. I think America is probably the only country that has this amount of people who speak different languages. So, and Shy Lady, I'm going to pick up on what you said. Let's say you go to uh, let's see. Let's say you go to I'm just trying to think of a country. I'll just say Mexico. Okay, you go to Mexico. You're living there, and you have to get a job, and they tell you that you cannot work here unless you speak Spanish. Now, again, you're not in Florida, you're in Mexico, where they speak Spanish. Is that considered wrong in your opinion?
No, I don't think it's wrong. I mean, I went to the Dominican Republic a few months ago for a vacation, and there were some people that worked in the tourist area that spoke English. Some had broken English, but I knew that in order for me to communicate with them, I would have to know some type of Spanish, a little bit of something. And I found myself, with my daughter who knows a little bit of Spanish, I found her being the interpreter and saying most of the language, most of the Spanish that she could communicate with them much better than I can, and she did. So I didn't expect any different treatment because I was in their country. So I understood that I'm in a Spanish speaking country. It's not America, and I knew I was out of my element. So I did the best I could to try and communicate. But I definitely understand if you're in someone else's country and that's the first language, then I get it. So yeah, I agree with that. If I'm traveling somewhere where the native tongue is Spanish, I understand that I'm the one that's a foreigner.
Okay. All right. Let me ask this. Do you believe that um, America is a hypocritical nation or country?
Um, I think it can be in some instances. I know that there are some people. I mean, I've seen videos online where people go off. There was one video. It was actually it was from Canada, and there were a group of people that were from the Mid East sitting in a restaurant behind some white patrons, and all of a sudden, a white woman in Canada turned around and started yelling at these people while they were eating and told them, "This is my country. Why are you speaking that language?" And she was just going off on them, and they were like, "You're crazy, and don't talk to us. And we're here having dinner with our family. You have no right to talk to us." And she was really, really going off. I don't know if she had too much to drink, but she was really angry that they were speaking whatever. It could have been Arabic or something. They were from the Mid East, um, and she was really disturbed by that extremely. And I thought it only happened in America, but it's over in Canada as well. And I don't think that she had the right to disturb these people while they were eating their dinner or whatever. I wonder if she would have reacted that way had they been white with blonde hair speaking Polish, or would she have reacted that way if they were German? I mean, it just makes me wonder.
Okay. Does anybody want to comment on what Shy Lady just said? Anybody? Okay. Juju, can you hear me now? You having a heart there, so I am going to assume that you can. Okay, good, good. All right. Well, now I want to move it to another stage of this topic where I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some pushback, you know. So I'm just going to come out and say it. Um, I think that America, when it comes to hypocrisy, and again, freedoms like I was talking about, the right to vote, the right to carry arms, mask, and all that other stuff. Um, when you look at it on a political level, um, and I say this on both sides, and I've always been one to always say that, you know, there's, people on both sides of the aisle, whether, you're a liberal or a conservative, you have assholes on both sides. And, I'm being honest. I mean, that's true. You have assholes on both sides. Um, but unfortunately, you know, um, being an asshole, affects some of the laws that are passed, and it gets to be hypocritical. And I'm going to, talk about something that I said, in a previous show where, you know, um, America is one of the first countries to, always talk about human rights in other countries. But look at what's going on here. We have human rights issues in our country. Um, we always have, you know. Look at religion. There's hypocrisy in religion. So America is a strong country, and I think that America is a great country. But there's always that but. But we have a lot of the issues that we preach to other countries that they should not have. And again, we talk about, poor human rights standards. Um, but America has committed, and this is up for, for argument, some of the gravest cases of human rights. We have. And I think that if people are being honest, uh, yes, Crucible Man, you are. Hold on. I think that if people are being honest, um, they would recognize that. And Crucible Man, I always mute people when they finish speaking. So if you want the mic, go ahead.
Yeah, I think hypocrisy is probably one of the most common components of human nature of any that you could possibly list. In hypocrisy comes in all shapes and sizes. Some of it is quite egregious. Some of it is very innocent. So I don't know that it's ever possible to eradicate hypocrisy. I think it's part of one of the great flaws of human beings. We are fundamentally, in a lot of ways, just like dishonesty is and immorality is, it's a flaw in the human condition. It just depends on, the level of hypocrisy, the nature of it. Is it intended to hurt people? Is it innocent? I just happened to be scrolling through my laptop here, listening to the commenters, and I stumble across a headline in the New York Post that this is from about 2 hours ago. Defund the police, which is in quotes, squad members, and I think you know who the squad members are the biggest spenders on private security. Very timely headline, I guess, considering what we're talking about here. But I find that level of hypocrisy to be more egregious than, say, somebody who says don't drink and drive, and the next day they get a DUI. That's not quite, because you're not really inflicting harm on other people. But in the case of, let's say, take this headline here, private security versus defunding the police. By defunding the police, you're hurting the very people who need that protection while availing yourself of private security because of your lot in life. That, I believe, is a more critical form of hypocrisy, because you are directly or indirectly harming people while benefiting yourself from your position.
Okay, I am going to comment on that. And what I say to that is, first of all, I think, and I've said this before, defund the police was and is a horrible slogan. And what should have been said is reform. Um, I do believe that you have a lot of money that goes into um, policing that should go to other areas, such as what we were talking about before, like mental health, whatever. Because I think that every time there's a situation, a police officer does not need to show up, and do they need to show up in riot gear, you know, in terms of the squad and their private, uh, uh, bodyguards, whatever. Yeah, that is hypocritical. But then again, you look at, if we're going to, go that route, you look at the former guy, and the amount of money that taxpayers spent on Secret Service, and you look at what the former guy spent on Secret Service in 1 year, just first year when he was occupying the White House. That first year, he spent more on Secret Service than the former president Obama spent in 4 years. So again, I say there's hypocrisy on both sides. If you're going to call it out on both sides. Now, in terms of this of the squad, do they need bodyguards? I would say yes, because their lives have been threatened. Um, and on January 6th, 2021, you had people who were actively looking for them when the Capitol was breached to kill them. Um, but at the same time, do I believe that people on the right need bodyguards? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that someone like, you know, um, Anthony Fauci, whether you believe in his, medical uh, uh, opinions or whatever, um, his life is being threatened because he's telling people to wear a mask. So again, you have to look at both sides, and we have a habit, which is also human behavior, of picking and choosing. So I just say that in terms of hypocrisy on the level of bodyguards and what have you, yeah, there is, but it's on both sides. It's on both sides. Um, and again, I have said it before. I think defund the police was one of the worst uh, uh, slogans or whatever, that was put out there. I think instead of saying defund, it should be reformed, because I do believe that police departments across the country need to be reformed. That's my opinion. And a lot of the, you know, people who people say, need the protection, they don't want it. They don't want it. You may hear a lot of people, people here and there saying, "Oh yeah, we need the police," but they don't want them in their neighborhoods, because they know that if the police come into their neighborhoods, more than likely it's going to end the wrong way. Um, I have friends that live in South LA, and when I go visit them, I see what is going on. And when I say I see what's going on, I'm talking about with law enforcement, and it's not cool. It is not cool. So again, that's getting off topic, but that's what we do, whatever. So does anybody want to respond? Anybody want to, say anything or respond to what Crucible Man said, respond to what I just said, if not, okay. Hold on, Crucible Man. All right, go ahead.
Well, in particular, with regard to people who are most affected by policing, and I'm referring to the predominantly African American neighborhoods and maybe some Hispanic neighborhoods, and I'm just going off of crime statistics. That's just an anecdotal comment. I've seen consistent surveys done just as recently as the last couple of months from constituents or residents of these neighborhoods, and they overwhelmingly, might I say overwhelmingly, in the 70 to 75% percentile, overwhelmingly favor not less police, but more police, not even the same police, and they rarely mention reform. I happen to believe the police department is in need of massive reform. I am not a police apologist by a long shot. I am highly, highly critical of the police force. And you're talking to a white man who has had almost zero contact with them throughout his life. And I still believe they are corrupt. I believe they are poorly trained. I believe they are overreactors. So if it sounds like I'm an apologist for the police, nothing could be further from the truth. But the very people in the neighborhoods affected most by crime, they don't even want police levels at the same level they are now. They want more. And when you're calling the police and you're sending out, and I agree with the riot gear comment that you made, Solid, a lot of it is just completely overdone. But when you're in a crisis situation and say there's a hostage situation or somebody's barricaded in an apartment building, and maybe they've got hostages, maybe they don't, maybe they're threatening to harm themselves. At some point, you don't know until you get there and assess the situation whether or not a mental health provider would have been the better choice. I think the erring on the side of, well, let's go with the show of force until we learn otherwise. You could debate that all day long, but again, in the heat of the battle, when the call comes in, are the people answering those calls, are they equipped to decide right there on the spot when every second counts whether this is a mental health counselor call or a police in riot gear call?
Okay. Does anyone want to respond to that? Okay. Siri. Very good point. Okay, Shalady, did you want to come on or yes, no? No. Okay. Um, I understand that. And so my next question would be until you assess the situation, should we have people who are in social services, um, do they automatically go out on calls like that? Because when you have someone showing up in riot gear, that can escalate the situation. Um, and I think, in terms of optics, um, it's not a good look. Hello, Tuttles. How are you today? Um, you know, um, I just think that when it comes to policing, um, there's hypocrisy there. You look at the gunman this over the weekend who killed four people, including a baby, an infant. Um, and he walked away on his own 2 feet. You know, had he been another color, they would have been carrying him out. Um, I think that there's a lot of hypocrisy in law enforcement, um, that just goes so deep that instead of defunding, we reform.
And
So, oh, shy lady.
I totally agree about the reform. And I also believe that there should be some intervention in terms of a wellness person to come out with, to um, kind of the um, the action that may be going on that's detrimental to someone's mental health. You know, I say that because I have family members who I had mentioned on another show that suffer from mental illness, and there was a family member who was having one of these episodes and thought that the other family members were trying to kill them, which was further from the truth. And the police were called, and the police came out with guns drawn on an elderly woman, 80 years old, and a young man who's 30, clearly non threatening. And it was all just unnecessary because the person who had made the call clearly appeared disturbed, irrational, out of their minds, thinking was delusional, thinking that the people that they love and have been around all their life was trying to attack them. And for the police to come out and try to handcuff, men, not really giving this person a chance to speak, it was ludicrous, and definitely need to be reformed. Not a lot of these officers are not trained to deal with mentally ill people. They don't know how to assess the situation. Coming out with guns drawn is totally unnecessary, especially when you have two people that look very non-threatening. As I mentioned, one was an 80-year-old woman, and it's just ridiculous. So that's all I wanted to say.
And and I agree on that point, because you have the woman a couple of months ago who she was deaf. She's driving, and she was deaf, and law enforcement, they're not equipped to deal with that. She had her daughter in the car, and her daughter's yelling and screaming, my mommy can't hear you, and they're still slamming her up against the car, because she's not listening to what they're saying, and the little girl is screaming, she has to see your mouth, she has to see your mouth, whatever. I mean, that those things like that are just extremely unnecessary, but unfortunately, this is something that happens, to certain groups of people all the time. you know um uh I don't know. It's it just gets to the point where I keep throwing up my hands and I say I don't know, whatever. But um, you do know that things need to change. You do know that that um, certain things are not right. You do know that um, there are people who deal with more hypocrisy on certain levels than others. So when I say I don't know, I do know, and I think other people know too. Um, um, I just again, just looking back at everything that went on since 9/11, and how this country came together, and look at where we are now. You know, we're in the same place, in my opinion, we were before 9/11, and we have been, since the formation of this country. Um, but I always say, if it doesn't happen to you, you may not think it's so important. You know, um, I think what's happened over the last five years just allowed people to out themselves, and they've have come out blazing glory, happy to be outed. So where some people's minds and hearts are. Um, but when it comes down to democracy and freedoms, um, everybody doesn't have the same freedoms. Everyone doesn't. And again, this is where I say, be honest. Everyone doesn't, and those freedoms are diminished the day you're born, or the day you're born, you may get more just because of who you are. And that's a fact. Some people may disagree with me, but that's a fact. The democracy that some people may feel in this country, others may not. You know, I'm just going to speak a little bit on COVID. Um, I see these cases that are going up, and people who are in the hospital, and they say that more than 98% of people who are in the hospital hooked up on vents or what have you are unvaccinated. And you have a hospital uh, here in California that it will be shutting down on the 21st. They will no longer be, oh, I'm sorry, the hospital is not shutting down. The maternity ward is, because a lot of the people, healthcare workers who work there, are not vaccinated. Um, so they have chosen, instead of getting vaccinated, that they will quit. So the hospital is shutting down the maternity ward until they can hire enough staff to, get that part of the hospital, that ward up and running. And to me, I say good riddance to those people. I personally, if I go into the hospital or see my doctor, or whatever, and I did do this when I went in to see my doctor, for my physical this year. I asked, "Are you vaccinated?" The nurse that was there, "Are you vaccinated?" Because if she wasn't, I didn't want to be around her. And I say, and this is going to sound very harsh, that healthcare workers who are vaccinated should stay home for one day across the country, just not go to work for one day, and see what happens to these unvaccinated people who are on vents. And I know that sounds very harsh, but it's like these people go to work every day, and they're busting their ass, trying to save people who, for some, if they survive, I'm still not getting vaccinated. But that's my opinion, for one day, and see what happens. I don't know. Does anybody want to comment on what I just said or not? Okay. So, basically, I just see that we as a country, if we're going to survive, because I don't think we are, I think that we've pissed God off so much that the book of Revelations, which is already, things have already started to come true. I think we're, very likely or I will very likely in my lifetime witness the end of the world. And this may sound, really off, whatever. Like, oh, come on, really? I mean, but seriously, if you read the book of Revelations, it's in the Bible. And I think that, we've just pissed God off so much that he's just so disappointed. But if we're going to survive as a nation, as a world, we have got to get it together. And Shy Lady says, I believe these just may be the last days. I mean, and I do. Between the fires and the tornadoes and hurricanes and what have you, there's just coming more and more frequently. Wars and Juju says floods and you know um you know one country still wants to drop a bomb on another country, whatever. I think we are coming to the end if we don't get our shit together. And I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about, like I said, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, independent, whatever you want to call yourself. We need to get our shit together as a human race. Because as humans, we have totally screwed up a lot of things. A lot of things. And that's where I say maybe next time when God does a do-over, he puts humans at the bottom of the food chain and we have, animals at the top. Because right now, they're a hell of a lot smarter than us. Okay, Shy Lady says rumors of war. I mean, can we ever not have a war? Can we ever get through a generation where there's no war? I mean, come on. So that's just what I think. So again, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but we need to practice what we preach, which we don't do. And we need to be honest and look at things the way they are. But, I invite you to read the book of Revelations because I just think, like I said, that God is not very happy right now. So, does anyone want to say anything? Because that's all I've got. Does anyone want to make a closing comment or statement? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, as always, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I apologize. At the beginning of the show, I had it as unlisted instead of public. So I apologize. I had to start over and come back in. So I apologize if you were not able to get in. But that's all I've got. And thank you, Crucible Man. I will see you tomorrow. I'm Salad Blue Sister. Speak your truth. And this is my turn to talk. Bye. See you later, Juju. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you as always. Kimmis, thank you. Crucible Man and OJ28, as always, thank you very much. tomorrow's show is supposed to be on terrorism. And I'm even going to talk about little children who are terrorists, and I'll explain that tomorrow. Unless something happens today and I hear something or read something, and then it could change. I stay until the end of the song. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much. I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.